Parents who knock on their kids' doors and then immediately open it anyway. What's your thought process? This thread reminds me why I moved into a 5th floor apartment with no elevator. My mother hates taking a lot of stairs. Medical problem. And she would be in my apartment every day if it weren't for the stairs. I love my mother, but she has zero sense for privacy. Walked in on my kid jerking off once. Never again. To his credit, he took it like a champ. Dude, you're supposed to knock. I had a bed platform for a while, and it got very squeaky. I was cleaning one day, reaching to my left, tossing on my right, the whole time squeaking the bed. My mom didn't knock and immediately open. She straight up bust through the door as quick as she could, having approached it with stealth. Whereas any other time she would drag her feet through the hall like a sloth. What it did accomplish, is it almost gave me a heart attack. I jumped nearly half a foot. It was that abrupt. Needless to say, I haven't been able to stop wondering what my mother was hoping to see. I can't even look at her without thinking she's some kind of a creep. You hear your son's bed squeaking, so you sneak up and bust through the door. Why? My son's doctor told me to start knocking on my son's door and waiting until he responds. Come in. At his 10-year-old checkup. I hadn't really thought of it before, but I made sure to do just that. Only time I come in is if I've knocked multiple times, and I figure he is asleep. He will fall asleep with his glasses and TV on, so I come in to take care of that. I have a bolt lock on the inside of my door for this sort of situation. After I'd be getting dressed as a teen and people would just wander in despite me putting a do not disturb sign on the door. I always assumed the knock meant put your dick away, I'm coming in. And as a former teenager, I was always ready to put my dick away at the slightest threatening noise. I had to move back in with my folks after splitting from my wife. My mom tried to pull that shit on me, but I was smart and the door was always locked. So instead I would get, the door's locked, yeah, no shit. Why are you trying to barge in here? I could be naked with a hairbrush up my butt for all you know. Very modern family thing here. My parents never knock. So I usually lock it so they can't open and catch me doing something wrong. But that habit of never knocking kind of instilled in my brain. So I never knocked as a kid either. Saw some crap when I walked into brother's room once. Also know that every time my parents do lock the door, they're doing the deed. Therefore, teach kids to knock and wait until you open. Do the same for them. Don't waltz in. Don't barge in. Because they'll do that to you too. Learn from me. Edit. Thank you, kind stranger, for the silver. It's my very first. My mom did and still does that when I go back home to visit once a year. I'm 30 BTW. Toc toc toc, can I come in? Opens the door. Sometimes I'll open my eyes to her grabbing empty water bottles out of my room. Oh sorry, I thought you were sleeping. Yes Pauline, I was sleeping until you decided to come in at 7 AM on my vacation time for no reason. The worst is that my grandma is nothing like that, only her. No respect for privacy or sleep. I'm in my 30s. My mom lets me know she decided to come over by pressing her face up to the windows. Sometimes from the backyard. Knocking. Parents knock. My mom took away my doorknob because I shut the door to change my insulin pump while she was yelling at me for not having my college apps done 2 months early. Ugh. My mom used to do that, if she knocked at all. So, at my house with my kid, I knock. I let the kid know what I'm doing. Hey, kid, I have laundry for you. Or hey, kid, I need to talk to you. Then I wait for an okay. Only then do I open the door. If by chance I get a not right now, Mom, I say, I'll be back in exactly 3 minutes. And that's what happens. I can't imagine. My parents would knock on the door, and wouldn't come in until I opened the door for them. Really helped feel like I had some personal space in a very crowded house. My mother walked in on me using an electric bikini trimmer once. I had one leg propped up on the edge of the tub and was leaning back against the wall with my pelvis tilted upwards. So here I am taming the wild bush, and boom, my mother throws open the door and then acts shocked at what I'm doing. She then later told me that any man that wanted a woman with shaved pubic hair was a pedophile. BC, only children do not have pubic hair. I was like, WTF ma. I shave because the hair itches me and I don't like it. Edited to add this. Just because my mother said a few crazy comments in her life, doesn't mean she was a bad person. I'm sure everybody has said at least a few crazy things in their lives. Please chill everybody. It's just a funny story that happened 15 years ago. Can't we all just laugh at my teenage self getting caught shaving my groin? It's not this serious. I knock on my daughter's doors and then if they don't answer or say hang on a minute or whatever I leave. My youngest daughter says I'm the only parent she's ever heard of who does this. Edit. OMG gold. For the record, if they don't answer, I assume they're asleep and come back later. The chances they're actually in the process of dying by aspirating their own vomit after a carfentanil overdose are astoundingly low. They just are asleep or have their headphones in listening to a D&D podcast. Unless it's the most important thing in the world, it's just not a big deal. My husband, by contrast, does the simultaneous rolling knuckle knock door open, face with rolling eyes. When I was 11 or so, I knocked on my parents' door to have them help me open something and they didn't answer, so then let myself in. They were having sex. So I'll never do that again. I also don't just walk into people's houses even if they tell me to. I wait for them to open the door for me. When I was 8, I had a friend down the street call and ask me to come over. He told me just to walk in. I do and happen to see his dad walking around completely naked. So needless to say, I'm pretty scarred for life. Edit. Scared to scarred. I don't have a parental answer, but man did my parents learn quickly. My dad would always say, hey you and serious girlfriend, can come watch TV upstairs with us if you want. No, we're cool. And usually it was just because what high school couple loves hanging out with their parents? We just didn't wanna spend out time hanging out with them. But obviously there were some more private reasons too. So one night before we had time to react, my dad knocked and threw open the door and looked straight into my butthole with the way the bed was positioned at that time. Honestly, glad that traumatic experience happened to him. I've never had a reason in anyone's house for any reason to throw open a closed door. Only excuses if a bathroom door got closed, and then you slowly open going hello to double check. I know last time I went into Guna Kitten's room just after he showered. He was naked and I yelled at him for being naked in his own bedroom. But maybe this time he'll have figured out how to get dressed in 20 seconds. My mother. Probably. I like to air dry. Woman. Leave me alone. My mom did this to us every day growing up. I have 6 siblings and my god, she managed to piss all of us off every single day with this shit. High school was the worst. I don't need you to remind me 6 times in 30 minutes to wake up. She still does this to my granddad who lives with them because he can't hear you. Just go in. My granddad will occasionally put a chair in front of his door so that she walks into the door when it suddenly stops, but she still doesn't learn her lesson. Edit. I love my mom dudes. She just drives me up the wall. It's the 0.5 second of minimize that web page warning time. Never has it ever been long enough as well. My mother-in-law popped the bedroom door open the first time I stayed at their house. I was 25 and he was 27. My now husband and I weren't even going to be sleeping in the same room. We were talking privately and she opened the door because she didn't want us having relations in her house. For fuck's sake. Switch flipped after we got married. She gave us a gift bag that included condoms for our wedding night. What the fuck, woman? My mum used to do this, followed by rooting through my phone, computer, and school bag. Created a lot of distrust that ended up with me leaving the house at 14, and not coming back till I was 17, when I found out my father was worse. Edit. One word since people went after that, I guess. My dad used to do this all the time, until one day I stopped him and told him, look, you're free to barge in whenever you want to, but someday you're gonna come in and I'll be dick in hand. He laughed. I laughed. He knocks and waits now. My mum did this to me with my ex. We were under the covers with his dick up my ass. Had an entire conversation like that. His mum did this to us, but I was copying doggy style. There was no conversation that time. Mostly screaming. Not me but my mom. Well, she says she wants privacy, but what I want is more important. She took the lock off of my bathroom door because I was closing it to shower and she wanted me to leave it open. I'll be moving out ASAP. My mum used to do this until one day. I didn't close the porn, I didn't put my dick away. I just stared at her and said a simple yes. She never did it again. My mother never lets me close the door to my room. I'm in college, and I'm home on break. I'm used to staying up until 3 in the morning. So I was up just watching Netflix. And at 3 in the morning, she got up because my door was closed, and opened it. Nice woman. Does the most ridiculous shit sometimes. Imagine having the type of parent who don't even knock. Just walk in. I could be besting the shit out of my dick and they'd just walk in. This happened to me when I was about to mount my GF in her bedroom. There was a knock, so we sprung to action and she was pulling her school skirt down and I was rolling off the bed to hastily get back into my jeans. But her mum opened the door approx 1 sec after knocking, and caught me running like hell, naked, with a bouncing boner, trying to make it behind the door. But our eyes met, so I know she saw me. I stood behind the door and she immediately closed the door again when it clicked what was happening.